everybody. Welcome to Life Stories Podcast, People Helping People. I'm Shara Goswig, your host. My guest today is Rita Wilkins. Rita calls herself the Downsizing Designer. She is an interior designer and has had a business doing that for many years. She's an author. She has a YouTube channel. And she made a trip to another country, and it changed her philosophy about stuff, about the things that we hold on to and what is important and what isn't. And that is when she began downsizing and helping other people to do the same thing. Her story is incredible. I mean, I totally believe in what she's doing. I think it is beneficial for many different reasons. And I loved meeting her and hearing her story. Thanks for being here. Well, thank you so much for being a guest today. You know, I love what you do. You are called the Downsizing Designer. We've downsized before out of necessity, but I don't think people see it as a necessity all the time, but I think it is sometimes. And I love what you're doing to help people. This isn't just about redecorating and making things look nice. You have a purpose in what you're doing. So tell everybody what you do and why you got started.
So I'm called the Downsizing Designer. I'm actually an interior designer. I've had a company for 40 years, and we've done work all over the country, everything from Supreme Court justice chambers to corporate interiors to tiny houses and tiny kitchens. So
Wow.
our work is vast, and it's across the United States. But about 7 years ago, my younger son was serving in the Peace Corps in Senegal, West Africa. And after he was there for a year, he said, "Mom, you've got to come and see this." So, I'm footloose and fancy free. And I said, sure. So I went for a month. I stayed in his hut. We slept on the ground. And when I arrived in that village, I actually did a TED talk on this because it was so profound. When I arrived, the village elder handed me a live chicken as my gift. Well, I'd never held a live chicken before. And it was like this. His African mother took it very graciously from me. And then that evening, that little chicken sat on top of a big bed of grains and vegetables. And she pushed the better part of the chicken towards my son and me. And that moment actually changed my life, because I came from an interior design background where we've done all this beautiful work. I myself had a very large 5,000 square foot home, and it was gorgeous. And I'm single. But that moment where I thought, how could people who have nothing be this happy, this generous? And so when I came back home a month later, it was like the lights went out for me. Everything looked like stuff, and it didn't have any meaning to me at all. So it took me about a year. I downsized from 5,000 square feet to 867 square feet.
Wow.
And I gave away 95% of what I once owned to people who needed it or wanted it. And frankly, I've never looked back and I've never been happier. So the moniker of Downsizing Designer was one that at first I thought, well, I'm not cleaning out people's basements. But I embraced it in a way that said, wow, people are asking me, how did you do that? How did you, number one, decide to downsize? Number two, give away so much stuff? And so it's been a journey. It's not like I was trained to be a downsizer, but over the last 7 years, I've developed many methodologies to downsize. But what I really speak about around the country and write about, and we have a very large YouTube channel with about 1,500 videos on it, I speak about what happens when you downsize. So when you are downsizing because of health issues, you're downsizing because of divorce, you're downsizing because of financial issues. So many reasons people have to downsize. Or there's the other category where people like me chose to downsize because I wanted that simpler life with less. And that's what I experienced in Senegal, and that's what I have now.
I love that. When we downsized, it was out of necessity. It was a financial situation. And we downsized to half of what we had, and we put the other half in a storage building, and it sat there for a few years before we cleaned it out. And I realized I didn't need any of that stuff. I had missed it for, 3 years. So we got rid of a lot of stuff too. What was the hardest part going from, because 5,000 to 867 is a huge change. What was the hardest part of that? I know you wanted to do it, but what was the hardest part of it?
The hardest part was thinking I could do it myself.
Ah,
Because, I'm strong and of course I can do it myself. But when I experienced about a month full of tears and a month
yeah.
full of anxiety and overwhelm and all of that, I called my sister. I have
Mm,
2 sisters, and they said, "We'll be glad to help you." So they live in New England, and
yeah.
so the next weekend they came down, and what happened there was knowing that it's more fun to do something like this together. It's also much easier because it's a very physical task.
Yeah.
I learned to create teams around me. So I had
Mhm.
friends and family that would come down every weekend, and we would have what I call an extreme decluttering experience because
Mhm.
we'd spend about maybe 3 to 4 hours doing, say, one corner of the basement, and everything would be out of there, or it would be donated or discarded. And we'd look at it, and there was a before picture, there was an after picture, and then we would have a party.
Oh, that's awesome.
So we would have wine and food and all this, and we would talk about the experiences. So the hardest part for me was realizing I really can't and I don't want to do this by myself. So
Yeah.
I created that kind of fun experience of downsizing, and and we still laugh at some of the things that happen. And certainly during that time, there were many occasions where you'd open a box, and in one case it was my dad's alarm clock, and the alarm clock
Mm.
was like one of those little 199 alarm clocks, but
Yeah.
when I opened it, I just started crying like a baby. And
Yeah.
my sister saw me crying and she said, "Why are you crying?" And I said, "I remember Dad winding this clock to provide for our family." So it had
Yeah.
nothing to do with the clock, it had everything to do with the memory. So along the way, as the downsizing designer, I've created many methods to how do you deal with those emotions? How do you deal
Sure.
with the sentimental things? And there are ways, and what I did, and it's not like I was trained to do this, I just figured it out. Um, I took a picture of it. I wrote a little story about it. I did a Shutterfly album. And so now today I have 2 sons. My sons and my grandchildren can say, "Why did grandma cry over an alarm clock?"
Oh,
Or,
wow.
so maybe it was like, "Why did I cry over my mother's teacups? Why did
Yeah.
I cry over this?" So each one of those experiences are experiences that other people have. And so having been there and done that, had the tears, had
Mhm.
the emotions, people believe me, and also
Yeah.
because I'm older, they but also it's an amazing journey. It's very cathartic.
Yeah.
And if you allow yourself the pain of going through, say, kids' artwork, that's what I'm writing a lot about right now because, I have still a pile of my kids' artwork, the little um,
Yes.
macaroni frames and things like that that they gave you for Mother's Day. And
Mhm.
and women particularly are saying like, how do I ever get rid of this?
Yeah.
So there are ways to never lose the memory, but you don't
Right.
have to carry around the macaroni picture frames for the rest of
Yeah.
your life.
I love creating an album like that. That's so smart. I mean, that's great that you get to keep that and remember it. I have kept a few little things. Like I think I still have some of my kids' baby clothes in my
Yeah.
drawer, and my kids are all in their 30s. So
Uh,
I have kept just a few little things. Um, yeah, it's hard as a mom to not want to hold on to those papers and those
mhm.
things. I don't know why. They don't. Anyway, I love that idea of creating that album. That's awesome. Do you think that's one of the hardest things people deal with when they're trying to downsize and declutter? Is that sentimental value of the items?
Probably so,
Yeah.
and then, of course, there's the physical part. It's overwhelming.
Oh,
It's a lot
sure.
of physical work. So a lot of people will say to me, "Well, how do I do this?" And so I usually recommend just don't look at it as the big project, just
Mhm.
look at it in small chunks. So it could be a junk drawer. It could be, a half of a closet. You don't have to do it all at one time. It's to pace yourself. Ideally, get a team.
Yeah.
And then also have the right mindset. So you will never catch me decluttering on a nice day because I want to be
Yeah.
outside. I want to be having fun.
Sure.
So what I do is if it's a rainy day, a cloudy day, a gloomy day, like, okay, I'm going to spend 20 minutes, 30 minutes, or, if I have more time, then I'll give more time to it. Another thing is to pace yourself in a way that whatever your time is available, it's better to do 20 minutes a day than 2 hours once a month.
Yeah.
Because you get into a pattern, you create a habit. And then, when you start to see, let's say, your library starting to look better,
Hmm.
like it's motivational for you to continue that process.
Right.
And I mean, sure, you can have, a huge clean out day, something like that. And we all have those. But that's exhausting. It's also memorable because I don't want to do that again anytime soon.
Right.
Whereas if you're doing like 15 or 20 minutes a day and that's just part of your mantra, um, honestly, it gets done. So,
Yeah. I've
yeah.
heard this before, and you can tell me if this is true or not. The best way, because it is sometimes overwhelming when there's so much, is the best way, if you have a room or even a section of a room, just to take it all out and then decide what you want to keep or throw away or donate or whatever. Is that one of the best ways to do it, or is that just crazy?
Well, okay. I think it's crazy.
Oh,
You're making a bigger mess, right?
yeah.
So if you think about your closet, if you take everything out of your closet, look at the mess you've just created. And then
Yeah.
something happens and the kids need you for this or whatever. Well, then you've got this mess that in the back of your mind, you're going, oh
Sure.
my God, I've got to go get that cleaned up. I prefer myself to be a little bit more measured and to
Hmm.
say, okay, I'm going to clean out my closet maybe this week. And so then you take this section, that section, or whatever. And then I've created another new method rather recently. It's called decluttering backwards.
Oh,
And, most people say, well, what does that mean? And it just happened one day when I was cleaning out a closet.
yeah.
And, normally we think about what do we want to get rid of? And
Right.
that's when it gets a little overwhelming. Well, I don't know. I like that pair of pants and they used to fit me and I love that dress, but I haven't worn it in 5 years. Those are the things that are hard to deal with. But if
Yeah.
you look in that same closet and you say, what do I love? And you
Mm,
say, oh, I always wear that dress or I always wear that shirt. Keep those in the closet and
yeah.
take the other things out. So in a way, you've kind of created a mess. But when you look in that closet, then you're looking at, because you're decluttering backwards, you're saying, what do I
Sure.
love? And
Yeah.
so by keeping the things that you love, then you look at that pile that's maybe sitting on your bed and you're saying, you
Yeah.
know what? I haven't worn that. I haven't worn that. And so, and then there's the maybe pile. The maybe pile
Yeah.
is those things that I think if I lose like 5 pounds, I'll like
Yeah.
that again.
I
You know,
have some of those.
we all have those. Yeah. Yeah. So
That's too funny.
I have something coming out relatively soon. It's a book of 10 different ways to declutter. They're
Oh,
different
wow.
methodologies,
Yeah.
and we've used a lot of psychology behind it. So one of my favorite methods is to set an alarm clock for 15 minutes. Give myself 15 minutes. What can I get done? Because I love deadlines. Not
Yeah.
everybody loves deadlines. Some people are slower paced. And so you keep a couple of boxes in that room, and when you have time, you put them in,
Right.
donate or dispose. So this particular workbook is going to be, I think, a game changer for many people because
Wow.
we all fit into different categories.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes, you need more time. Sometimes there's what's this one is called? Layer by layer.
Yeah.
So when you have had something like a spouse die, you're a
Mm,
new widow. Some people cannot even look at that clothing or whatever for a year or two.
right.
And so when you do it in layers, when you're ready to look at some of the things that maybe books or whatever,
Yeah.
something that's not quite as emotional as clothing. And then you go to the next layer and the next layer. So everybody has different situations and everybody has different personalities. So that's what this book was
Yeah.
created for.
That's wonderful. When is that coming out?
Um, Probably early to mid September.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
So we're still working on it, but yeah, yeah.
Awesome. That's very good. What have you found in your own life and then when you work with people, unexpected benefits of decluttering and downsizing?
Okay, so this is a real life example. So I had just moved from 5,000 square feet. I'm now in my little apartment. It took us, I don't know, not more than a day to completely do it with all the artwork and everything else hung.
Wow.
And I'm literally sitting there and I thought, I have nothing I have to do. It was like, whoa, what does that mean? Because before it
Yeah.
was a big house, there was always something to be done. And so it was time, was
Yeah.
one of the biggest revelations. The next one was more money because I was saving money by living in this tiny place,
Sure.
all the other property stuff. And then there was freedom. So
Wow.
when I said, okay, I have more time, what do I want to do? And I will tell you, because I raised two sons, they're now adults. And as at that time, there was no time. And there's
Right.
oftentimes there was very little money, and then there was certainly no freedom. But,
Right.
suddenly, and I wrote a best-selling book about this, and Downsize Your Life, Upgrade Your Lifestyle, Secrets to More Time, Money, and Freedom.
Wow.
And it was something I didn't expect. And
Yeah.
a lot of people will say that to me, like, wow, I don't have to clean up the house anymore. Or if I do, it only takes 20 minutes. Or,
Yeah.
my husband and I can now travel more. Um, I can experience more things with my grandchildren.
Mhm.
So, what's better than having freedom, right?
Right.
And when you're tied down to a big house, and honestly, downsizing is not for everybody. So I am the downsizing designer, but I can say that with clarity that not
Sure.
everybody wants to leave that big house. I just wrote another article about what are some choices. Downsizing is one choice. Moving to a smaller, more manageable space, more affordable.
Right.
Another one is aging in place. So 80% of the people, according to AARP, really want to age in the home that they're
Yeah.
living in. And because they raise their kids there. But at some point, it may not be realistic that you can't ascend those stairs or, there's
Right.
so many transitions. So there's a lot of opportunities for safety issues. And
Yeah.
then the middle range is what I call downsizing by decluttering. And what that I wrote about that in my book. What that means is if you were to take your house as it is right now, and let's just suppose it's really cluttered and it's really weighing down on you, and you're
Mm.
really saying, well, maybe we should move. Okay, maybe you should move. But what about as an interim step, you completely declutter as if you're moving?
Right.
So when you move, you pack up a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
And and then if you were to look at your house as if it were a brand new house, the very first day you walked in, it's empty. And
Mm.
it felt like you could breathe and you loved all the space and the light and everything else. Well, then over the years, it became full of stuff.
Sure.
So when people are saying, I don't know whether I want to downsize or not, or I don't want to downsize at all,
Yeah.
I want to stay here. Well, then we talk about, and this is the designer side of me, we talk about making your home safe as you age. So,
Yeah.
things like putting grab bars or, larger, more lighting for sure, and
Mhm.
different thresholds. There are things that we can do to help you age in place safely in that home, as long
Yeah.
as you can. But if you want that interim step, anybody can do that, you know,
Right.
downsize by decluttering.
Sure. I
Mhm.
love that. I think that is such a great idea. And isn't it funny how, I mean, we've done this a few times where we've moved and we've done what you said, we've decluttered and got things ready. And then I think, why didn't we do this before while we were living here? It seems like that happens all the time. Have you found working with adult kids who are having to declutter or having to help their parents do that, is that sometimes difficult? We talked about the sentimentality, I guess, of that alarm clock or different things like that. Is that something that you often have to deal with people when you're working with them? Yeah.
So there are many people. My boys are in what's called the sandwich generation.
Mm-hmm.
And in some ways, and my parents are gone, but the sandwich generation is meaning you have your own kids, you have your own life,
Right.
and then you also have your parents who are aging. So
Yeah.
you're in a sandwich because what do you do to help? And so many adults, my age bracket, they don't want to downsize. They don't want to declutter. They say, you'll deal with it when I die.
Right.
I'm a very strong advocate for decluttering before you pass away, so your kids don't have to
Sure.
do that.
Yeah.
So, in answer to your question, um, I strongly recommend that there are conversations had between adult children and the parents
Yeah.
about, what would you like to do? And of course, when, as a baby boomer, I'm not quite at the age where, my kids are saying, Mom, it's time for you to go to a senior living. Not quite. But we should have the conversation.
Yeah.
Like, what are your intentions? And it's better that it comes from the adult rather than having the child say, oh, we want you to do this or we want you to do that.
Yeah.
Because then you develop animosity and resistance. So if you engage each other in a realistic conversation, Mom, you're getting a little bit older. We're a little bit worried about you with all those stairs.
Yeah.
Um, what are you thinking? And then it's an opportunity to have a conversation. And but unfortunately, many times it has ended up in a an antagonistic kind of thing.
Right.
I was speaking at an event about a couple months ago, and a young man, it was a wealth management group, and he obviously had done very well. And he said, Rita, every time I try to talk to my parents about decluttering and downsizing, it turns into a huge argument. What do I do?
Yeah.
So I created a document that was from the younger person's side. How do you have that conversation with your parents? Or
Right.
from the parent side, how do you have that conversation with your children?
Yeah.
So there are ways to create an environment for a healthy conversation that really should be had.
Yeah.
Like, where are the financial documents? Where are all the other documents?
Right.
And too often people get entrenched. Well, this is my stuff, and my kids will deal with it when I'm gone. Well,
Yeah.
there's a compassionate side to that because they've got their own lives, and do they really want to deal with cleaning out your basement and your garage and your
Right.
attic and have their own kids? No,
Yeah. No.
no. So and being in the position that I'm in as a third party, it's much easier for me to say, what can we do to kind of
Yeah.
ameliorate this situation? Because sometimes it gets very antagonistic. And
Yeah.
what can happen, unfortunately, is, let's suppose the older parent falls. Well, suddenly they can't live in that house.
Right.
They have to move. Well, now, they hadn't planned for it, but now they've got the situation that's a health issue. And
Yeah.
so what do? Everybody's going to have to make quick decisions. It's better to
Right.
plan it if you can.
So when you work with people and you said you work with people all over the United States, do you do virtual coaching or, talking to people? Is that what you do, or do you travel and get to help people?
And so my interior design world, I have worked with people all over the country, and I used to travel a lot. So whether we're doing mountain houses, beach houses, whatever, but in terms of decluttering, I've done a little bit of virtual, but it's not really what I prefer to do. I
Yeah.
prefer to be speaking
Yeah.
and showing people how to do it
Right.
and working with the emotional side of that. So it's
Yeah.
more philosophy. So I do a lot of writing. I have
Hmm.
about 1,500 videos on YouTube, and then I do a lot of writing and things. So, and speaking around the country.
Yeah.
So, excuse me, I've got allergies and it's kind of
Oh,
flaring up. But I I mean, yes, I can do it locally, but there are other people that do a far better situation than I do. So I was asked recently to clean out someone's storage unit. Well, I've got the people to do it, and I
yeah.
can do it. And if I do it, it's going to be because it's a favor for a friend,
Right.
but it's
Right.
not something that I do regularly. Some people do it regularly. They go in, they
Yeah.
help you, they, clean out, they organize all of that. I would rather be speaking from the side of what's stopping you.
Yeah.
What objections do you have right now that are holding you back? So, one of the things is I might need that someday.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I wrote an article recently about cleaning out your garage, which, is kind of like not everybody's favorite thing to do.
No, it's not.
It's something that, okay, it's got to get done. And I mean, I had to laugh at some of the comments I got on that article because, you know, a husband who hasn't picked up a toolbox in 25 years is suddenly very emotional about that toolbox.
Yes.
um, or a set of dishes in your basement that you
Right.
got for your wedding and you've never opened, and
Yeah.
that's the kind of stuff I might need it someday. Or
Sure.
my kids will probably want it. Well, guess what? Your kids
Yeah.
probably won't want it. Ask them if they do, let them take it.
Yeah.
Or the other one was a china cabinet, the big brown furniture that
Hmm.
our kids don't want.
Right.
They didn't want it until they realized you're going to sell it, and then they wanted
Right. Then they want it.
and
Yeah.
then I said, okay, well then what do you do with that? You tell them, okay, if you want it, bring a truck, take it,
Right.
and we won't sell it to you. We'll just give it to you. Well,
Yeah.
that's it's funny. I mean, some of the things I hear, it's just hysterical,
Yeah.
but it's also real. And
Yeah,
so,
it
I mean,
is.
you can, it helps to laugh at things. I mean, I laughed at myself so many times.
Yeah.
Um, but it's also important to be real with people,
Sure.
and and
Yeah.
that works. It's a good combination.
Absolutely. We've
Mm.
talked about some serious reasons, some emotional reasons of people having a hard time, but can you tell me a fun story or a happy story of somebody that you helped that it just transformed their lives?
Sure. This was actually a friend of mine. She was a professional woman. She had really created a fabulous business, but her business was running her life. She had no
Mm,
balance, zero. And, she was getting into her 50s and then soon to be in her 60s. And she said, Rita, I have no life. So, I went through an entire process with her and, asked her, would you consider, delegating more, number one, because
yeah.
decluttering isn't just stuff, it's also your calendar
Right.
and it's also your technology.
Sure.
So other places in your life could be downsized or
Yeah.
decluttered. So we talked about that, and she said, well, I do, but I've never delegated before because, it's my company. And I mean, I totally understood that because I was
Yeah.
there 25 years ago myself. And
Yeah.
so she started delegating more. She did have a really good assistant who she ultimately trusted to do much of the work that she was doing.
Yeah.
She decluttered her house, ultimately moved to a condo, and now she's traveling all over the world whenever she wants.
Wow.
Yep. It's a very happy story because whenever I get, like, an email from her and she's in Albania or wherever, she said,
Wow.
I, she said, I am living my life now, but
Oh my
before
goodness.
she was not living her life, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's amazing how stuff can do that to us, to getting so overwhelmed with it. And it's also amazing to me how quickly it accumulates. I mean, you talk about decluttering, every weekend or doing it often so that you don't have to do so much at one time. And you'd think that's a lot, but it's not because we accumulate, I call it junk, so quickly. I don't know how it happens, but it just piles up. And so
Yeah.
I can see why it's needed to be done, so often.
Well, number one rule is to stop buying more.
Right. That would be an easy way.
I have a 5-year-old granddaughter, and I was with her the other day, and I said, let's go buy some new school shoes.
Yeah.
And she said, why don't we just go on Amazon? She's 5 years old.
My granddaughters tell me the same thing.
Well, it's a reality check, right? That's where
Yeah.
they come from. I mean, I used
Yeah.
to love to go school shopping with my mom.
Yes.
It was like a fun thing to do. So anyway,
Yeah.
um, we've got to stop buying. And
Yeah.
I really admire my children and their wives because they're more frugal,
Yeah.
certainly more frugal than I was,
Hmm.
and they put boundaries and limits on what
Yeah.
they will buy, and
That's good.
it's very good. And
Yeah.
so frugality is a good word, and I think it's coming back into our
Yes.
conversations, and
Yeah.
especially when they have kids and they're having to balance a lot of different expenses and everything, but I don't know, I think number 1 is to stop buying. Number 2
Mhm.
is to become more mindful of what you're buying. So when
Right.
you go into a store and, you're, "Oh my god, that dress is so pretty." Do you really want it? Do you need it? So ask yourself questions,
Yeah.
"Do I really need another pair of black pants?" Or,
Right.
you know and some of it you can laugh at yourself, but even if you just stop yourself for 2 minutes to say, "Do I really need it? I
Yeah.
think I've got something like that similar at home. Maybe I'll come back." And usually
Yeah.
it's in that period of time that you won't. Um, and also it's about teaching our kids to be,
Mhm.
to be more frugal. I was a single mom, and my kids were in private school, and I owned my building, and it was like, oh, one more layer of expense, right?
Right.
One day, my younger son came into the office after school, and he was so proud of something that he had bought. It was a CD that probably cost like $20 or whatever.
Right.
And this was the time of my life, and I was very, very stressed about, like, all my team and paying all of this stuff. Anyway, I said, "Kevin, how much money do you have in your pocket right now?" And he pulls out a $20 bill, and I literally, right in front of him, tore it in
Oh
half
gosh.
and flushed it down the toilet. He goes, "You just threw money away." And I said, "I know, so did you."
Wow.
He said, "I will never forget that lesson." First of all, he was pretty mad at me. But
Right.
secondly, I didn't care because he had to learn
Yeah.
that, you should be thinking about spending $20 or whatever a CD was at that time,
Right.
because he was having to work at his little coffee shop job, and he didn't make much money, but of that money, what percentage of it went toward, so I guess my lesson was is just trying to teach them to be a little more conservative about what they're
Right.
spending. And I had to clean up my act too, because I couldn't be spending the way that I was spending, in
Yeah.
previous years. So yeah, yeah. So
Yeah, I
mm,
love that.
mm,
So, in all your speaking and your articles and your videos and all the things that you're doing, what do you hope that each person learns or walks away with
mm.
after you have helped them?
Well, that's where I go back to my design world,
Yeah.
because what I've been doing for 40 years is helping people change their lives through interior design, through changing their kitchen, their bathroom, their whatever.
Yeah.
It can affect change in their lives. Now,
Sure.
through downsizing design and decluttering, we can change their lives. So they're very much aligned. So interior design and lifestyle design. So what I always hope people will walk away with is that it is possible to change your life through decluttering, through
Yeah.
downsizing. So if you want to have less stress in your life, have you ever thought about cleaning off your desk? Have you ever
Right.
thought about keeping your kitchen counters cleaned off? Have you ever thought about, every day have a reset, like a 15-minute reset? Have you ever thought about teaching your kids to clean up after themselves? Those
Mhm.
are the basic things. So it's changing lives through decluttering,
Yeah.
downsizing. So a group that I'll be speaking to in LA this month is a senior living, a brand new senior living facility. And these people are interested in possible lifestyle
Wow.
transition. So, do I stay in my big house or my condo,
Yeah.
or do I move to a smaller community?
Sure.
And that's a real mindset shift. And so I help them explore that. What would your life be like if you didn't have the big house anymore, all that stuff?
Yeah.
Or what would it be like if you lived in a like minded community with people similar ages and all those activities and things like that?
Yeah.
So lifestyle design is really what I do now. And what I
Yeah.
hope people will um, get the feeling like, yeah, I can do that. Because a lot of people will say, I'm too old for that, or my time has passed. No, it's not.
No,
It's just starting, right? It's
absolutely.
the exciting time of our lives. Yeah.
Absolutely. That's wonderful. This has been so enlightening. I love talking to you and I love what you're doing. The things that you talk about, cleaning off your desk, cleaning off your kitchen counter, it sounds so simple, but it helps. I
Mhm.
mean, it really does make a big difference. So I
Okay.
think what you're doing is wonderful. And I really appreciate you talking to me today.
Thank you. And thank you for having me because
Absolutely.
what it's about helping each other,
Yeah.
grow and you're,
Yeah.
in what you're doing, is, just getting the word out about life stories, that
Yes.
people, as you said, change lives. So
Sure.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you so much. You have a wonderful rest of your day.
You too.
All
Take care.
right.
Yeah.
Bye bye.